Sarah Mitchell, 29, had always been drawn to the water. A nurse from Seattle, she had spent years dreaming of scuba diving in the crystal-clear lagoons of the Pacific. When she finally booked a trip to a remote island in French Polynesia, she knew it was her chance to experience the underwater world she'd always imagined. She wasn't an experienced diver, but her excitement overshadowed her nerves. Sarah rented gear from a small, family-owned dive shop near her hotel. The shop's owner, a man in his 60s named Jean-Luc, seemed friendly but dismissive when Sarah asked about the condition of the equipment. "Everything is fine. Been using this gear for years," he said with a wave of his hand. The morning of the dive was perfect. The sky was cloudless, and the lagoon shimmered in shades of turquoise. Sarah joined a group of 4 other divers, including their instructor, Martin, who was young, enthusiastic, and reassuring. As they boarded the boat, Martin gave a detailed safety briefing, emphasizing the importance of staying calm and signaling if there were any problems. Sarah strapped on her gear and slipped into the warm water, feeling a mix of awe and apprehension as she descended. The world beneath the surface was mesmerizing. Schools of vibrant fish darted past coral reefs, and sunlight pierced through the water in golden beams. But something was wrong. About 20 minutes into the dive, Sarah felt her breathing becoming more labored. She checked her air gauge and froze. Her tank was nearly empty far sooner than it should have been. Her heart raced as panic set in. She looked around and tried to get Martin's attention, waving frantically. Martin noticed her distress and swam toward her, motioning for her to stay calm. But Sarah's fear overwhelmed her. She began to claw at her regulator, as if trying to breathe more air that wasn't there. Martin grabbed her arm and gestured to ascend. But Sarah's panic made her movements erratic. The group surfaced together, but by then, Sarah was gasping for air. Her face was pale, and her eyes were wide with terror. Just as the boat came into view, Sarah's body went limp. Martin and another diver hauled her onto the deck, shouting for help. Despite their frantic attempts to revive her, Sarah didn't respond. Back on shore, the local authorities began their investigation. A diver who inspected the tank discovered a hairline crack in the valve, causing a slow but steady air leak. The tank hadn't been properly serviced in years. When confronted, Jean-Luc brushed off the accusations. "She must not have checked her gear properly," he said defensively. News of Sarah's death spread quickly. Tourists and locals alike were outraged, but the dive shop avoided major consequences, citing a lack of enforceable safety regulations in the region. Jean-Luc continued operating his business as if nothing had happened. Sarah's family flew in from Seattle, devastated and furious. Her father, a retired engineer, was particularly angry when he learned how preventable her death had been. "One inspection could have saved her," he said bitterly. They demanded justice, but their efforts were met with red tape and indifference. The case was quietly closed, leaving her loved ones heartbroken and grappling with unanswered questions. The tragedy didn't just end with her death. Sarah's mother, racked with guilt for encouraging her to chase her dreams, fell into depression. Her younger sister, Emily, couldn't shake the nightmares of Sarah's final moments underwater. Every holiday, the empty seat at the table was a painful reminder of what they had lost. To this day, the lagoon remains a popular diving spot. Tourists flock there, unaware of the dangers lurking beneath its beauty. Sarah's story, though faded from public memory, lingers as a haunting reminder of how one overlooked detail can shatter a life and devastate those left behind. Story 2. Alex was 25, an adrenaline junkie from Florida, always chasing thrills. His cousin Tyler, just a year younger at 24, wasn't as bold but often found himself roped into Alex's wild ideas. Both had grown up near the Gulf Coast, surrounded by stories of treasure-laden shipwrecks deep beneath the waves. It was Alex's idea to dive to the mariner's grave, a notorious wreck sitting 150 feet underwater. The dive was dangerous, reserved for seasoned divers with advanced certifications. Neither Alex nor Tyler had that. It was a hot summer morning when they stood on the dock, their rented gear gleaming in the sun. Alex's enthusiasm was infectious, and Tyler, though nervous, trusted his cousin. "It's just a dive." Alex reassured him, "Nothing we can't handle." They ignored the warnings from the rental shop owner, who cautioned them against diving so deep without experience. The water was calm as they descended, the surface sunlight fading to darkness. Alex led the way, his flashlight cutting through the murky depths. Tyler followed, his breathing quick and shallow. At first, the descent was exhilarating. The wreck came into view, a shadowy outline of twisted metal, covered in decades of algae and coral. But something felt off. The deeper they went, the stranger Tyler felt. His thoughts became cloudy, his movements sluggish. By the time they reached the wreck, Tyler was visibly disoriented. Alex noticed his cousin's erratic behavior. Tyler was fumbling with his mask, tugging at it like it was suffocating him. "Tyler, stop." Alex's voice was muffled in the water, but his panic was clear. He tried to grab Tyler's hands, but Tyler's eyes were glazed over, his expression distant. It was nitrogen narcosis, a condition that made divers act irrationally at deep depths. Suddenly, Tyler yanked off his mask, releasing a stream of bubbles as he gasped. Alex lunged for him, managing to hold onto his cousin's arm. Tyler thrashed, his movements desperate and wild. Alex knew they had to get to the surface fast. He gripped Tyler tightly and started ascending, too quickly for safety. The rush to the surface was chaos. Alex felt the pressure building in his chest, his vision blurring as his body screamed in pain. Tyler had gone limp in his arms. When they broke the surface, Alex gasped for air, pulling Tyler onto the boat. Tyler wasn't breathing. Alex screamed, attempting CPR with shaking hands, but it was too late. Back on land, Alex was rushed to the hospital, suffering from decompression sickness. He survived, but the damage was done. Lying in the sterile hospital bed, Alex replayed the dive over and over in his mind. He had been so focused on the thrill, the challenge, that he'd ignored every warning. Tyler's death haunted him. The sight of his cousin's lifeless body, the way his eyes had gone empty in those final moments, it played on a loop in his nightmares. Alex couldn't forgive himself. The dive had been his idea. He'd been the one to push, to promise it was safe. Now, the mariner's grave was more than just a shipwreck. It was where Tyler's life had ended, and where Alex's guilt began. Eric Sandler, 34, was an adventurous soul from Denver, Colorado. An experienced diver, he loved exploring the ocean, finding peace in the quiet world beneath the waves. When he signed up for a night dive at a popular tourist spot in the Bahamas, he saw it as a thrilling way to end his week-long vacation. The dive site was famous for its vibrant coral reefs and nocturnal marine life. The group of 6 divers, led by an instructor from a local dive company, boarded the boat just after sunset. Eric was eager but cautious, double-checking his gear and listening closely to the briefing. The instructor emphasized the importance of staying together in the dark water. The descent was magical. The beam of Eric's flashlight illuminated colorful corals, schools of fish, and even a shy octopus scurrying into a crevice. He felt a sense of calm as he swam alongside the group, staying close but keeping to himself. About 40 minutes in, the instructor signaled that it was time to surface. Eric took one last look at the glowing reef before following the others upward. As they broke the surface, the group did a head count. Someone was missing. "Where's Eric?" one of the divers asked. The instructor scanned the water with a flashlight. He insisted Eric must have surfaced earlier and was likely waiting on the boat. But as the group climbed aboard, it became clear Eric wasn't there. His dive buddy claimed to have seen him just moments before the ascent. Panic spread among the divers as they realized something was terribly wrong. The instructor made a call for help, and the boat circled the area, searching for Eric. After an hour, his gear was spotted floating on the surface, but there was no sign of him. The crew returned to shore, promising that authorities would investigate. The next few weeks were agonizing for Eric's family. Search teams combed the area, and questions mounted. Why had the dive operator been so quick to leave? Why wasn't a proper emergency protocol followed? Then, Eric's body was found by a local fisherman. The news was devastating. His body showed injuries consistent with being struck by a boat propeller. Investigators began piecing together what might have happened. Witnesses later claimed they saw the dive boat leaving the area in a hurry, shortly after Eric had gone missing. Some speculated that the boat had accidentally struck Eric as he surfaced, and that the crew, fearing consequences, had covered it up. The dive company denied these allegations, insisting they had done everything by the book. Eric's family was left with more questions than answers. They fought for justice, but with little evidence and no witnesses willing to come forward, the case stalled. The dive company continued operating, its reputation barely scratched. For those who knew Eric, the ocean would forever be tainted by the mystery of his death. And for the tourists still drawn to the reef, his story served as a chilling reminder that even paradise holds dangers in its depths, a tragic truth that Eric's family would never forget.